All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. This is our summary to help you understand a little bit about risk project management when you've got tasks that you need to accomplish as a boss or a manager. How is it that you get through that overwhelm and go through a framework in order to be able to brainstorm what may affect your project from getting completed, what tasks you've got so that you don't get held up and given roadblocks and end up prevented and frustrated. You want to be able to have a framework of steps to go through to help organize at the start of the project and then ongoing throughout the project, figure out what it is you're going to be doing to help manage those risks ongoing. So this is the first part, okay, up to the point of identifying and managing the risks, and then later we'll have more content on preventing those risks and controlling them and reacting if a risk becomes an issue, becomes a reality. So let's get started into it. Okay, remember the definition of what is a risk. All right, it's a potential event that may happen in the future. All right, it hasn't happened yet. It's not something that you're reacting to yet. It's something that could happen in the future. And again, risk is considered positive or negative. Remember, if you play a game of cards or go to the casino, you're hoping for a positive outcome for the risk that you're taking. You're giving your money, you're pulling the slot machine, and you're hoping for a payout. That's a positive risk that you're taking, right? So risk, again, is just anything that could affect what you're trying to accomplish. And again, we'll go through the definition and how to classify and brainstorm these things. All right. Now, again, the key consideration is that there's a risk in our terms of language and a problem. So we need to make sure we distinguish between the two of those. A problem or an issue is something that's in the process of happening. It's on right now. You aren't able to prevent it. It has now passed a threshold that says, I need to react to this, right? So many of us spend so much of our time as a boss or a manager or as a project manager reacting to something that somebody else has done. We're trying to get ahead of that with this course. We're trying to say, what can we predict and proactively work to stop from becoming a problem or an issue, right? The risk is the potential that something may prevent. Once that threshold has been passed, right? The trigger has happened. Now we've got something bad that we have to deal with, and that can cause all sorts of downstream problems, costs, and again, prevent you from getting your tasks done. You're now overwhelmed. You're now having to deal with those issues and those fires that you're trying to put out. So we're trying to get ahead of this, all right? Project risk management is giving you a framework, all right? Knowledge about, obviously, how to prepare, the skills and the ability to be able to go through these task steps, and the risk management tools, all right, the templates that I've given you so that you can reduce whatever those threats are, whatever those probabilities are reduced or those impacts are reduced down to an acceptable level so that you can move past and actually get your work done. All right. So again, just to come back to the very important factor of why are you doing this? Why are you studying this? Why is it important to pay attention? Well, of course, risks come up on our brain all the time, all day, every day. It's what we as humans do. We're always able to think ahead into the future and say, oh, this could happen, this could happen. And that can paralyze us from getting our tasks done, right? The what if scenarios that we can play in our brain can escalate and escalate up to a point that we can't even function. And then as soon as we hit something that becomes a real issue, a real item that we have to deal with, yeah, we're so frustrated and just willing to escape that pain, that frustration any way we can. So we end up distracted, browsing on social media, avoiding the issue and not dealing with it. And of course, as a boss or a manager, you can't avoid some of these things. You now have a pain that you have to deal with. So if we think about it ahead of time, which is natural, then let's get this down in writing in the process that I'm going to go through in the rest of this video. Let's get it down in writing so then it's off your brain and you can prioritize it and say, that's something I need to worry about later on in the project, later on down the road, a month, 2 months. You know, a project can be any length of time. A project could be 3 weeks, or it could be 6 months, or it could be a year, right? There's some things you don't need to worry about right at this moment, but at least if you write it down in the risk register, then you're able to say, yeah, I can worry about that later. What we're trying to do is give you a framework to rank what the probability is high of right now and what the impact might be that's big enough that you need to deal with. All right. So we're trying to figure out what is and isn't a priority. What do we actually have to deal with? And of course, if we can prevent a problem from becoming an issue, if we can prevent it before it happens, then great. Sometimes, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as they say. As a boss, what's important is that you are trying to set the tone for your employees to say, let's think before we take actions, right? And that's especially important if you're looking after any sort of health and safety concerns, right? How can you make sure that you instill that let's think before we take actions approach so that you're proactive thinking about what could this do? What is the impact? If I send this email with this language, how is the client going to react? Right? Let's be proactive in managing our risks and saying, let's take a breath. Let's not always be reacting to issues. Let's try and be a bit proactive. We've learned from our mistakes in the past. Now, how can we be proactive going in the future? You have a direct influence, a direct impact as the boss, as the manager, to say, are we going to always be panicking and reacting? Or can we take some time at the start of every day or the start of every week or some point during the week, whatever your schedule allows, but let's just talk about what could be coming up that could become an issue. Let's talk about it now. That makes everyone's lives calmer, reduces stress for everyone on your team, obviously, and most importantly, gives you employees that look up to you to say, yeah, Chris is looking out for my best interest, right? Your employees will stay with you if you're not always panicking and worrying about things and always trying to react. If you're working with them to make their lives easier, they're going to trust you. They're going to stick with you. You're not going to lose your good employees. So all good reasons why project risk management really does matter. Okay. There's some videos here in the links about risk and risk management, attitudes towards risk, right? Every company has a different attitude towards risk. If you work in manufacturing, for instance, and you must produce something very precise every time, yes, the risk of you having bad work quality that creates a quality control issue that your clients are upset about, right? The people who buy from you, if they're not getting what they want, they're not going to buy from you again. So if you're in the actual physical world of producing something, then you have a great deal of interest in controlling your risk of poor quality of your work. If you're doing something that's a bit more human services oriented, obviously your attitude towards risk might be a little different because you're dealing with people. Everyone is different as a person, culturally, of course, as well. So sometimes, yes, risks and things that you can get away with and communicate and understand sometimes with one group will work, and that attitude and that approach will not work with a different group. You have to tailor it to the group that you're working with. So you as a company may try and be proactive with risks, right? But you don't have to be as strict about it because in the past, you've just been able to talk your way out of problems. That isn't always the best approach, right? To react afterwards. And again, like I say, for all the reasons we just went through, you want to be able to try and be proactive and have a culture of proactive thought and learn from lessons that you've made mistakes before. So there's some good videos here that will help you understand about risk as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more, do take some time to watch those.